A new fisherman goes on a boat to catch fish. Nowadays, he sees it as it is. If he knew the way it was 20 years ago, he would be saying, shit, something's happened here and it's got to stop.
Each crayfish boat will catch up to 200 dozen crays on a 10-day trip, and they make a colourful picture as they come aboard.
When I was younger, and I'm talking like when I was about 10, and we'd net off the beach, and we'd haul the nets in, and it would just be chock-a-block full of fish, and it was a feast. It was an absolute feast.
And I've known the time when we've had so many fish in the net that we couldn't pull it in, it was too heavy. We've had to empty some of the fish out of the net before we could pull it up on the beach.
One day we, at 9:30, we'd put about a tonne of trevally on board by 9:30 in the morning, and just to spend the rest of the day we called in to a patch where we could catch some stripy trumpeter, and so we took about 100 stripy trumpeter as well.
Abalone, there was no shortage of them, and they were basically shoulder to shoulder. You could not put another ab on there.
To catch crayfish, we'd have a piece of rope or a piece of string, strong string, tie a rock on it, and a mutton bird. And we'd go down the cracks of the rocks, and you'd get a couple of crayfish, 3 or 4 crayfish.
Well, when we were crayfishing, we'd move to another ground if we didn't get 40 score, 80 dozen a day.
And the student will come back out, all excited that he's seen 2 or 3 crows. All excited that he's seen 2 or 3 crows. Now, going back 25 years ago, if, you didn't see more than, 20, 30 crays in a dive, things were getting pretty bad.
Barracuda, I'm not joking, if you go out when the season was on, an hour and a half, you'd fill the boat, you'd sink it, 16, 17 foot boat. They'd run 4, 5, 6 lines behind, and just the faster you could pull them in, you would have a barracuda. You just pull one in, and they didn't even use barbs on the hooks, they just bring them in, flip them over, and they'd fall off the hook and throw the hook back. But now, barracuda, they're a bit hard to catch, you don't get many.
I was brought up basically on the beach through fishing and boating, swimming, surfing, everything you can possibly think of when it comes to the beach. And it was great, I loved it. It was just the best upbringing, great lifestyle.
The coastal environment played a big part in bringing up the family as such it is known today. Just the help with bringing kids to nature and the coastline and appreciating what life's all about.
From being a knee-hider or grasshopper to a 67-year-old, I've seen a huge change in lifestyles and fishing styles. I think probably what's happened over that period, we've got smarter as fishermen too.
Back in the early 70s and early 80s, it was quite common to fish out of a 15-foot tinny and one motor, and very, very minimal gear. Now, if you haven't got a shark cat or a monohull with all the bells and whistles with sounders and GPSs and...
Massive change in the quality of the gear has revolutionised the recreational sector. So, ballpark figures in not just tripled, it's probably gone up 5 or 6 times in the actual capability of the extraction.
Well, basically from the time I started, that would have been early 50s, until now, that has just been a downhill ski run. and I think it just goes faster.
But we use 50 pots now, where once I used to use 19. And I'm not catching as much with 50 pots as I was catching with 19 pots. I'd say there's a decline of 60 to 70% in fishing pots. The last few times I've been out in Eagle Neck, around that area, you're just pulling up empty pots.
Well, years ago we got up to 70 in a pot. Now we might get a good, well, I did get some in the last winter, 30 in a pot, but and a few 20s and 15s, but the average is about 5 or 6 you have pretty good pots now.
There's a small breeding pool around Tasman Island with the stripy trumpeters, and the size of the fish being caught has gone from, you know, sort of 16 kilos down to 6 or 8 kilos. That's the standard size. So we've stopped selling that. It's very clear in Tasmania that we are selling something. While we have it, it's not in abundance. So we would like to give everybody this feel-good experience that we have a lot of seafood available at a cheap price, when in actual fact we have a minimal amount of seafood available.
The long-spine sea urchin came from the east coast of Australia, New South Wales, and with the stronger east coast current and the warmer water moving down the east coast, they have extended to Tasmania and are coming down the east coast in large numbers.
Probably the biggest change that I've noticed in the abalone industry in the last 10 years is the black spiny sea urchin. It has absolutely devastated some of our bottom, abalone bottom and crayfish bottom, by eating the crayweed, and it has just left the bottom absolutely just like concrete. Hence, no crayweed. When the watabs and what cray do spawn there, the spawn, if it's got nowhere to settle in the weed, just gets carried away or eaten by other animals, other predators.
Fish stocks are diminishing, and I don't think the public perception of fish stocks, not only in Tasmania but Australia-wide, has caught up with what's going on. And I don't think the legislation in the government has caught up with what is actually occurring in nature's swimming pool.
How do we do it ourselves? Well, education is the name of the game. Get to the young ones. Let the young ones, try to get the young ones to appreciate how it should be. How it should be. Because at the moment they have no idea. They just think it's normal to see a fish, 2 fish swimming around, say in Fortescue Bay. Jump off the beach and say, saw a parrotfish. But going back 25, 30 years ago, you'd have boarfish, you'd have cod, you'd have, you know, many dozens of parrotfish swimming around.
The fishermen and amateurs have got to be aware that they've got to stop being takers, not all together, but start and be protectors as well. They've got to protect their own fishery.
I'm a great believer in looking after the environment, and the environment will look after you.
It starts off with the professionals, and it starts off with the amateur fishermen too. We've all got to work together for one goal, and that's to make sure, as I said before, that the fishery is sustainable right through. We as individuals have got to look at our fishery so that we maintain it in such a way that we don't say, hey, we're here for the short time, we're here for the long time.